Hello and welcome to week 3. For week 3, we're going to be working on the iSearch essay, and this short video is going to go through the instructions for you. All right, so remember, for this particular essay, your purpose is really to reflect upon and narrate the research process that you've begun over the last couple of weeks, the research findings that you've accumulated so far by looking into 4 sources, 2 of which should be from the Macomb library databases, and your future research needs. So really, you want to think about focusing in on the process of research, what you've learned so far, not stating and supporting a thesis. So this is not a traditional research paper where you're going to have a claim and you're going to have body paragraphs that build that evidence with the sources. That's coming, but that's not this essay. So you really want to kind of really look at what you've done so far and where you think you're going to be going next with your research. Now, you've done a little of this already. You did start to think about your topic, your research questions, your plan for collecting the research and in answering those questions. So if there's something that you've already written up that can be embedded into this essay, that's fine. You can add that in. Any of that writing, as long as it's relevant, can be brought into this particular essay. But remember, this is a full essay. You're moving through a sequential process, which we'll go through in just a minute. Your audience, of course, is your classmates and me, so you'll want to think about the tone and style that fit best. Now, like I said, it's dedicated to narrating and documenting your research and learning processes, so it's not traditional in the sense where you're writing a research paper. Your goal this time is to investigate that topic and reflect on what you've learned about the topic as you begin to not only find sources, but read them, analyze them as far as how they fit into what will be your stance on this particular research topic and how they answer those research questions. So it's less formal. You can write in your own authentic voice, and you can use first person, which is, I, me, my. So in this essay, you're going to explain your personal connection to your topic. You're going to describe what you already know about your topic. You'll present your research questions and goals. So again, you can see where some of the previous assignments will feed into this, so they become pieces of what you'll put together for this iSearch essay. You'll narrate your research process, retracing the steps that you took to locate your sources. You'll report on the information you found, and you'll reflect on what you've learned, but also include what you still want to know about your topic. Okay, so you've got 3 parts to this: the story, the search, and the reflection. Let's look at each of those. For the story, the purpose of this section is to establish your credibility, why this topic is important to you and why in researching it you will become a credible source for explaining some aspect of that topic. So you can explain how you came to be interested in your topic. So again, think back to those first initial, week 1 discussion. Describe what you knew or thought you knew about the topic, what you assumed, what you imagined, and or what you've experienced. Feel free to make it, into an actual story here. Show that you didn't pick your topic randomly, but you chose it because it's important to you. So again, you've done some of this work already. The search is the next part, and the purpose of this section is to narrate the step-by-step process of your research. So you're going to present your research questions, you're going to narrate your research process in first person, and then explain what sources you found, how you found them, and where. And you'll provide detail about exactly where you looked, which search terms you used, and whether your approach was successful. So you want to be as specific as possible in the search section. And then you'll reflect. The purpose of this section is to simply reflect on what you've learned and what you still want to know, as we've said a couple times in this short video, but you'll explain the most significant research findings, discuss how your knowledge and assumptions were either challenged or confirmed. You can compare or contrast what you thought you knew, assumed, or imagined in comparison to what you've actually learned. You can offer personal commentary or insight, explain how the answers you found were valuable to your research, and identify any areas of research that might still be necessary. All right, and then you want to think about the order in your organization. You're going to narrate the steps chronologically with specific details. You don't need to include every minor detail, but you'll explain those major steps. So you want to think about, you've got these 3 pieces, you're going to move through them chronologically, sequentially, and even within that section, like when you're doing the search, you're going to go source by source. What was your first source? What was your second source, and so on. And you'll need to cite all the sources correctly. You have a video for that, Cite Right in MLA 9th edition workshop. That video for this week will allow you to think about correctly citing both in text and on that works cited page. Remember, you're using a minimum of 4 sources. 2 sources must come from the Macomb Library website, and you can include quotes, paraphrases, and or summaries of all the sources. You'll document them in MLA style. Now remember, if you're taking them from the databases, they most often for the articles have a cite widget, and you can simply select MLA format and it should cite it accurately. You might want to check. Sometimes it'll capitalize or not capitalize in places, so you'll just want to check it before you add it to your works cited page. Remember, all 4 of those sources will be on that page, and for every single source on the works cited page, there's got to be an in-text citation to show, those 2 need to match, right? Works cited means you've cited those works in the paper. At least 2 must come from the Macomb Library website, but I encourage you to use those databases for all 4 because, like I said, it does a lot of that citation work for you, and they're credible. But if you find it through an internet search, that would be fine too. If you aren't sure about the credibility of a source, you can always ask me. All right. Your guidelines here meet all the criteria described above that we've just gone through. You'll submit in a docx, or PDF format. You'll submit it through CopyLeaks, so that will check it for plagiarism and AI, any kind of AI, text generation. So you'll want to make sure that it goes through that process. It should, once you've uploaded it, it sends it through the CopyLeaks program. It should be a minimum of 4 to 5 pages, minimum of 4 sources, as we've said a few times. Correct MLA format. You'll have the heading in the upper left-hand corner, which is your name, my name, the course, and the date. You'll have a header, which is your last name and page number. You'll include an original title. That'll be something that you've created. You'll double space, use Times New Roman 12-point font, 1-inch margins, left justified text, but indentations for each paragraph, and then MLA in text and works cited citations. There is a rubric already embedded in the assignment explanation and submission link, so go ahead and click on grades in the Canvas menu, then click on the iSearch essay, and then click on show rubric. I know it's a few steps, but if you're interested to know how this will be assessed before you actually submit it, that would be a good place to look. And we've talked about that. CopyLeaks, please keep in mind that if an assignment has been plagiarized or generated using artificial intelligence, it will receive a 0 grade. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind too is that you will be submitting a rough draft and doing 2 peer reviews yourself, but also receiving hopefully a peer review. And then you will have time to look at that, look at any feedback that I've given, and then submit that as your final copy. And remember, this week we have staggered due dates as we do most weeks. Always, if you have questions, please reach out, but most importantly, get started. I'm sure that you will be able to easily pull together some of the writing that you've already done to complete this assignment.